the Around the NFL podcast. Hasn't lost Mark to the desert yet.
Hello and welcome to day 2 from Radio Row in Las Vegas of the Around the NFL podcast. Dan Hanzus here, of course, with the heroes Gregg Rosenthal and Marc Sessler. I think we should start here, Greggy. Mark, how you feeling, dog? Because it was a little touch and go yesterday looking at you.
And I feel, I typically feel terrible when that's happening because it's like people are having to listen to someone's voice that is not Radio Row ready. And Gregg is looking at me, and I understand, like, is this person going to fall?
Get him! Get him!
So, no, I would say I was at 12% yesterday. I'm at about 38%.
Okay.
Today.
That's great. In fact, we
trending upward slowly.
We took a car to get to Radio Row, and Mark leads with the fact that he thinks that he might be on the way out and his illness is raging. And I could see the driver getting very uncomfortable in a March 2020 kind of way.
In this huge, vast Radio Row, like a lot of people were huddling together and talking and catching up. There's a seat over by the wall over there. I was just sitting over there trying to respect everyone else's
as one does.
Destiny.
Right.
As one does.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be your normal antisocial proclivities that are contributing to
I
that
don't
at
think
all.
Mark, let's be honest. You're sitting against that wall no matter what.
Well, in this case, it benefited multiple
Well, I hope you remember this. You say you have no recollection of what happened yesterday.
None.
We had to
That sounds like more than a
drag
head
you
cold,
out
by
of
the way.
here, and I think it's got to be a big show.
So excited because this is the episode of the year for me, guest-wise, and reviews are in. The premiere, the pilot episode of Mark's Man Cave. People love it. They love the energy. They love the tone. They love the conversation. Coming up today, it's the SauceDog Spectacular. SauceDog. We have Sauce Gardner, New York Jets superstar. We have Chris Mad Dog Russo, icon of sports media, both on the show today. And if that's not enough, we got a pipe here.
in person.
Which was an incredible surprise to me because it was off my radar. Nick Shook, who is so important to our show during the season, is here covering the 49ers, and he had an interesting bar experience that we're going to get to later yesterday that really tied it to our show in a really neat way. So here we are. What a show. Again, this is the SauceDog Spectacular.
So it's,
With a little side of pipe.
well, I love anything with the side of pipe, and it's our preview show too. We're diving in. No one I'd rather do it with than Shook, and no one I'd rather fawn over and tell the same sort of stories as we introduce how we grew up listening to him than Mad Dog for the 5th straight year. We can skip that part this time.
Gregg maybe is less into that aspect of it.
No, I love Mad Dog. I don't want to hear that.
It's like you could say someone who is a pessimist could say that we cater some of our guest appearances to our own personal interests. We've had 2 Browns. We're going to have a Jet. We're going to have Shook is everyone's interest, but
right.
Mad Dog, our childhood hero. But you know what? You go do a podcast for 12 years and bring the guest on that you want to bring on.
Is it whose show is it? It's our show, baby.
Right.
Well, can I get like a pro women's tennis player on the show or something? Let's get.
I would say you
Osaka.
could.
We'll see if we can get a Steffi Graf here.
She has been getting out in the mix more lately.
See if we get Steph.
Some
A little. Now already I'm in the hole a little bit with the tennis. Kornikova. We'd see if
Monica
she's available.
Seles.
In a big spot, yes. Let's go with the legends.
Little Chrissy Everett.
Martina.
And by the way, Mad Dog, he loves talking tennis too.
Ooh,
so if
that's
you
true.
want
Yeah.
to get a tennis question in there,
Why don't you do that, Gregg?
I'm sure that would be of interest to our listeners.
When he did solo shows, he talked tennis for an hour on a rip. He
loved
would
it.
love it, Gregg.
I think what Gregg was indirectly saying is he doesn't want you to tell the story about driving with your dad in the car, listening to Mad Dog on Saturdays again.
I think we've covered that.
But I would love it because Mad Dog's going to hear it like he's never heard it before. So,
Right.
all right. Anyway, without further ado,
Let's start this.
have
thing.
I mentioned that today's episode is the SauceDog Spectacular? So let's bring him in. Our first guest, one half of SauceDog. Sauce Gardner. All right, so let's get into it. I mean, enough. Because right now, as has been mentioned, it's time for the SauceDog Spectacular, Part 1. Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets, All-Pro, former Defensive Rookie of the Year, like the best player on my favorite team in the world. This is cool. This is when it's cool to be here. What's up, Sauce? How are you?
I'm great, man. I appreciate y'all for having me. It's a blessing to be here.
Tell us what you're doing with Verizon.
Man, it's always great to, have my name and Verizon name mentioned in the same sentence. I'm a huge fan of them, and I just enjoy working with them. Like I said, I'm here on behalf of Verizon, the official 5G network of the NFL, the network that the majority, if not all of the NFL players, fans, and coaches rely on. So, it's a blessing to be here.
How do you feel about this is the SauceDog Spectacular, kind of being the opening act here for Mad Dog Russo coming on later in the show?
That's fire right there. I like that.
Okay,
okay. I like that.
I'm glad you're with it.
You got a sound effect and everything. I think that I saw that look in your eye when that
hit it.
When that played.
Yeah. Sauce, here's a theory to get into things. You know this Chiefs team, your Jets, our Jets. We kind of beat them in Week 4 if the officials didn't shenanigans. Let's be real. I don't know if you could say it, but I could say shenanigans. By the transitive property, if the Chiefs win on Sunday, the Jets are the Super Bowl champions. Yay or nay?
I guess Jets fans can possibly say that, but,
Right.
but reality is everything. So if it's not actually saying Jets Super Bowl, then we ain't winning.
What was it like going up against them at that point in the season and everything, and what they kind of presented to you? Like, how was it different?
It was great, like competitive, a whole bunch of elite players on that team. I still feel like we should have won that game.
No, come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Did they get you on one of those penalties?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, come on. You're going to penalize Sauce in the fourth quarter of crunch time. It makes me sick, Sessler.
It does. Well, what did you learn about Patrick Mahomes in that game?
You got lucky?
Now I learned that he know how to, how do I put this? When it's crunch time, he know exactly what to do. He know the guys to rely on. He know when and when not to do certain things. He's just a smart player.
He made those big plays with his legs, I remember, in the game. And
Sure.
always an underrated part of his game. And we're going to, I'm sure, see more of that. So it's interesting. 2 years ago, and you talked to a million people, and so you probably don't remember. But like an hour after you were drafted, we had you on the show right here in Vegas, and I was giving you the sad sack Jet fan routine of like, when are things going to get better? And you kind of cut me off, which I loved. And you were like, that's in the past. That's over. Like, I don't care what happened before I got here. And, of course, then you and Garrett and us young nucleus is coming together, and you've made steps. Of course, still there's been disappointment in the 2 years for the team, and the Rodgers injury was an all-time blow for the franchise in terms of gut punch. Like, I'm usually an optimistic fan, but I'm worried about where things are and how things go moving forward. Could you do me the favor of spinning things and making me and Jets fans feel good about what's going to happen this year, and maybe this is the year things change?
Make Dan happy. Make him feel better.
Or try. I don't know. If you could.
I mean, Aaron will be back. The defense, we're going to do what we do. Special teams, we're going to do what we do. Like I said, Aaron will be back. We'll be bringing some new pieces in for the offense. And those new pieces are going to be great for the offense, great additions. We're going to dominate.
I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel the confidence.
All right.
I felt it from day one. And
getting there now.
You're working on a one-game winning streak against the Patriots. I'm a Patriots fan, and so I remember the Jets-Patriots game at the end of the season more than probably the average NFL fan who was not paying that close attention to that game. But at that point in the season, you kind of figured it was the end of Bill Belichick, and so many things had happened for the first time in the Belichick era, or a streak's ended. But the one thing he had left in life, the one thing he had left with the Patriots, was that winning streak against the Jets, and you took that away from him. How do you feel about doing that on his way out?
Nice setup, Greggy.
Man, that feels great. You know what I'm saying? I'll be lying if I said that's not what we wanted to do, and that's not what our thought process was going into that game. We knew it could be the end of that Patriots era or whatever. So he had to make sure we sent him on his way the right way.
But he's like a future Hall of Famer. Couldn't you have just like given him that much, that one little bit that the Patriots could hold on to?
He already a future Hall of Famer. He a great coach. He's always done great things, won multiple Super Bowls. He knows so much about the game of football. So it's like doing that would have just been an extra little cherry on the top. There was no point of it.
On the Belichick point, so this is, I think, before you were even born, but when Belichick spurned the Jets and went to the Pats in 2000, and then went on, the greatest run ever for a head coach and a quarterback with Brady, I've been scratching my head and yelling on microphone the past couple weeks. I cannot believe all these head coach openings, nobody went and got Belichick and gave him a second bite of the apple like Brady got in Tampa. Are you surprised that he's not going to be coaching this year? Or how sure were you that he was going to pop up somewhere else and you might see him on the field next year?
I don't really know because I don't know what go into all of that, when it comes to job openings, what they talk about with the other teams. I'm sure those teams know that he's a great coach. He's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know why he wasn't selected. That's not my place. I don't really know. I just know he's a great coach.
It's
I
weird,
wish him the best in the future.
Couldn't get a job.
Well, maybe he will down the road. I on the Jets front, because I feel like you probably have learned a lot in your first 2 seasons. And, you're in college, everything's going great, but you hit a team that's hit, Aaron Rodgers goes down right away. And it seemed like 2 years in a row, you've got this glowing Jets defense and an offense that just was struggling. You don't have your number one quarterback 2 times in a row, and it's like, how do you, because there were a lot of reports coming out of New York, how does the locker room stay unified when the defense is doing one thing and the offense can't find their way? What have you learned about how to not have the team completely be a sinking ship?
We brothers before anything. I'm saying the football, that's the game. That's what we love to do. But the bonds and the relationships that you make when you're coming into this game, and when you're leaving the game, that's what matters the most. So it's easy to maintain that bond. You got guys that's on defense that's closer with guys on offense. So it's just that easy, to keep the locker room, keep the bond and the brotherhood.
So you were named first team All-Pro this year, again, doing that back-to-back years to start your career. That's only happened a handful of times at that position, like in the history of the NFL. Usually it's team players from winning teams too that get recognized. So
I think I was the first one.
You're the first one.
Corner.
So you're correct. Corner. You're on it.
I'm like 1 or 3. I just found that out. Michael Parsons, Lawrence Taylor, and me.
That's
Hit him with the sting.
An incredible achievement to start your career. Also, incredible dexterity to keep giving guys dap them up as they're walking by while you're doing the interview.
You're also the first person to ever do that on our show.
You're so flagging.
History.
It's just certain faces I don't really get to see too much. So when I see him,
I saw TJ Houshmandzadeh there.
TJ Houshmandzadeh walked by. One of my all-time favorite players. I did want to ask you about the All-Pros. What do you think you did this year specifically, maybe different than your rookie year, and that set you apart where you got the nod over some great players? Like L'Jarius Sneed didn't get it. He's in this game. Charvarius Ward didn't get it. Jalen Johnson didn't get it. What did you do that put you ahead?
Yeah, just dominate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Greg.
It hit different.
It's that simple, Greg.
It hit different when you dominate. You know what I mean?
But you got to add things to your game from your first year, right?
No, he doesn't.
I do. I'm still finding ways to get better.
That's what I'm saying.
Still finding ways to get better for sure.
Hey, before we say goodbye, one of our favorite segments with guests where we really get to know them is a little game we call 8 O'Clock Delight. It's a speed round. First thing that comes to your mind, and then we'll say goodbye. Hit it, Eric, the producer. Spring or fall?
Fall.
Jersey Shore or the Hamptons?
Jersey Shore.
Tarantino or Scorsese?
I don't know who that is.
Jay-Z or Nas?
Jay-Z.
Chappelle or Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart.
Friends or Seinfeld?
Friends.
Are we alone in the universe?
Are we alone?
Are there aliens?
I don't know. No, yes. Let me say yes, because I don't want an alien to pop up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to believe in stuff so they don't,
come and show you.
Look at the taser out. Be like, you didn't believe it.
Good strategy.
The Jets switched to the throwback jerseys full time. I mean, come on, right?
I like that.
Yeah,
but
right.
I do think we should have got some new ones. And never mind, I like that.
Where is your Defensive Rookie of the Year award right now?
At home, in my game room,
Favorite ice cream flavor?
strawberry cheesecake.
What's the movie or TV series you've rewatched the most?
I don't rewatch TV series.
Ah, interesting. Have you ever seen a ghost?
Yes,
Whoa.
We'll get back to that. Mini golf or play 18?
mini golf.
Do the Yankees have enough starting pitcher depth? I have my doubts.
I haven't got to watch the Yankees, but I'm huge fans of them.
All right. Pineapples or pizza? On pizza, yay or nay?
I had it before and it's good, but no.
Are people inherently decent?
People inherently.
Yeah, are people good at their heart? Or
Yes.
Okay.
and the final. Would you time travel if you could?
Is it backwards or do I
Yeah,
get
like,
to
could
choose
you, like-
forward or backwards?
Yeah.
You could choose,
Yes,
probably.
yes.
Good question.
Yes.
Good question.
All right, and finally, this one's from my dad, Keith, who's been a Jets fan since the Namath days. Who is the toughest receiver to cover in the NFL right now?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Can't do it?
I can't. It's not just one.
Because you shut them all down.
I can't just put one. I had to name multiple ones if I name one.
Name multiple.
You got Tyreek, Stephon, Amari Cooper, Taylor Waddle.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
They don't have a chance against the great Sauce Gardner. Sauce, I can't wait. Next year, we're not going to be able to do this because you're going to be playing in the Super Bowl. But the year after that, or maybe a couple years down the line, we'll do this again. Thank you very much for having us, and have a great Super Bowl weekend.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thanks,
I
Sauce.
appreciate it. For sure.
All right, there he goes, Sauce Gardner. I'll tell you what, I already do use that particular phone carrier, but
You would have been convinced.
I might sign up again after.
Yeah, I think. Well, he made it clear that the vast majority of NFL players, coaches, and fans use it. So
Well,
It's only a few
he's
more
not
to
wrong.
recruit.
I do not have a second phone. I have my NFL official phone, so we have no choice.
Greg doesn't have a burner?
It's a beautiful thing.
Greg, you don't got no burner?
No.
That's good.
It always makes me
That's class
suspicious
act.
of the people. It's like, you don't have a second. I was like, what's going on in your second phone?
I think the same thing. But people look at us like we're crazy. Anyway, that was good with Sauce. I wouldn't say that I now feel better. The sell about why things were going to be okay really boiled down to really what the Jets party line is, which is, well, Aaron's back. And maybe that will be enough. Maybe. I don't know.
I think Sauce is like, what more do I need to do? I don't think he's the
Right.
one going to be making the huge speech before week one.
Yeah.
That's not his spot. Just why don't you guys be as excellent as me, and then we can be somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Go get a couple right tackles, get another receiver, and then let's see if we can not fall apart in horrific fashion. All right. We are just getting warmed up. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, friend of the show extraordinaire will join us. All right, welcome back. So, scheduled guest, Nick Shook. But Nick has run into some issues with getting through the masses and into Radio Row. So we do have a fallback plan. Sitting to my right is Dave Ely, chief news editor, NFL media, luckless in love, but a good man with a good heart. Dave, welcome back to Around the NFL.
And also bald, so I feel like I'm covering for Shook as well. I noticed you pushed the mic up higher when
Yeah.
I got here, so I appreciate that. So not quite Nick, but I feel like I can fill in.
I was approaching from a distance and saw a balded white, and I thought, well, that must be Shook. And then I realized, just seeing the dimensions, and I'm not a tall person either, so it's no knock on you. That is absolutely not Nick Shook. But what is happening in your love life, Ely? I want an update.
Get right
We've only
to
got
it.
a couple minutes here.
Wow, so we're just diving right into it.
Yeah.
I knew we were not going to talk football.
Well, before we get to that, I just want to give a little background. So I ran into Ely last night. That's called the NFL House. They invite all NFL Network and NFL Media and NFL New York office employees and UK to a venue, and it's a nice scene. There was bowling, there was booze, food, all that good stuff. You know, Zuzzer, we had a meeting with some iHeart people. I had a couple Tito's. Then we go to this event. I meet up with Handsome Hank, and I have a couple more. Then Dave rolls over with his posse, Dave and the Dave Posse, and you know how Dave does. Dave starts.
He's gonna Dave.
Dave's gonna Dave. Dave's 100% Dave, and that's what we love about Ely.
Got to be Dave.
All of a sudden, we have a conversation that I didn't recall until this morning, and I get a text about, all right, so when am I coming on the show? And I had apparently agreed to have Dave on today's show, and then I had to let him know the bad news that Nick Shook, who just walked by, so you're about to get bumped again. Later in the night,
words, so it's okay.
Later in the night, I contacted Shook, or Shook contacted me, and he took your spot. But because Nick was late, you are now here to talk about anything you want.
I mean, thank you for letting me talk after what felt like a 2-minute introduction. To go back to what
That's how the show works, Dave, just to let you know.
But yeah, Dan did agree around 10 o'clock last night to have me on. Had no idea what he was talking about when I texted him this morning. And it was great. I did say, like, I guess promises from 10 p.m. at open bars don't mean anything anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, I kind of apologize. I wasn't blackout drunk. I just didn't remember the conversation very well. It kind of came and went and didn't stick around. And
it's like any scheduling with talk with Dan. Just assume he'll never remember it.
yeah, I guess so. Whatever.
But yeah,
Greg.
so
but
the floor is mine.
the floor was yours because Shook's here now. But just want to say we've been kicking around some ideas for off-season shows, and the idea of finding Ely a mate would be near the top of the list for like a spin-off summer show.
Yeah, I think we'll wait till then for that update.
I don't love Find Ely a Mate as like the name of the show, but I think maybe we could workshop that. But yeah,
How are things going? Because you're going full Dave. The shirt.
you guys have
30
said
seconds.
you guys have said full Dave so much. I'm not quite sure what that means. Maybe
Well,
I'll take that answer off the air.
Dave, we got 30 seconds.
Mark, things are going fine in the love life department. Still single, but you know what? It's a journey.
Those are two different things,
It's a
but
journey.
okay.
Right. So there's options. You could go like half Dave. You go 3/4 Dave. You've chosen to go full Dave today. That's what it
100% Dave.
means. Yeah.
Love that. I think we've reached the end of
Yeah,
our
so
run
Dave, we have to bump you. Not unlike how your college sweetheart had to bump you from her long-term life plans after Cam didn't dive on that fumble in 50.
Yeah.
So
It's a
thank you
rough
for
day.
joining us.
Hey,
Come
can I
on,
do a
Shook.
Super Bowl prediction really fast?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
But thanks,
Let's
Dave.
welcome on Nick Shook.
Shooky. Thank you, Dave. There he goes, Dave Ely.
Come on, Nick.
And now another bald white rolls over. This one different than the last. Also bearded.
Different stature.
Here you go. Sitting down with us now is none other than, man, you trying to get this pipe? Oh, we got this pipe. Nick Shook now sits down with us.
Yeah, and apparently Ely's short because this thing's way down here.
Ely taking some fire here. We love Dave. He's 100% Dave. Shooky, so here's a great story with Shook. So last night I'm coming back from the hotel after I had agreed to have Dave on the show, and Shook hits me up and says, I'm at the hotel bar, and you're not going to believe this, but what?
The pipe was within 5 to 10 feet, yeah, we're a little wobbly here, of the pipe god. The namesake himself was right there, and I was frozen in time. I was actually going to go somewhere else. I saw him, and I was like, I can't leave. And then I was trying to muster up the courage.
Wait, who is this?
J.R. Smith.
J.R. Smith, the
Oh.
former Cavs, Knicks, enter probably 5 other teams great, who, he is the original pipe. And to see two pipes in the same bar right next to each other.
Feels dangerous.
I never talked to him. I chickened out. I blew it.
Why, Nick?
I don't want to be that guy who's like, hey, can I get a picture?
You don't need to do that, but you could just strike up a conversation.
Well, the problem is I would have walked up and been like, I was in downtown Cleveland for Game 7 in 2016.
That's even worse.
You're my second favorite Cavalier. Like, I would have just exploded with adoration. It would have been bad.
It's like, how come you didn't know what the score was the year after that?
Yeah.
No, that would have been a bad one.
That's George Hill's fault.
Anyway, so, Shooky, you are boots on the ground. And thank you, because it's great to have someone here that is covering the teams. You're covering the Niners for NFL.com. Check out everything that Shook's writing up over there. What is your overall vibe about what's going on around the NFC champions?
Well, everybody likes to talk about the rematch, but that was 4 years ago, and the Niners have been pretty quick to point out that was 4 years ago. That a lot of things are different, but one thing that those returning players who were on that team have repeatedly said, there's two. One is talent won't win this game, it's whoever executes will win this game, who plays better. And the other one is they're all bent on washing away that feeling of losing. And you even add a guy like Javon Hargrave, who lost the Super Bowl last year to the Chiefs. Same thing. We don't want to feel the same way we did the last time we got to the end of this game.
I mean, so the one feeling I get from the Chiefs is that, they've been here so many times, so many of the same players, there's this calm and ease and a sense of we're just going to do this, and we're not concerned, there isn't fear. Like, do the Niners have, because they've been up the upper echelon too, do you sense that they also go in with that kind of calmness and serenity, or is there a little more pressure on them?
No, I feel like they're not operating with very much pressure. There is a professionalism, a bit of a we've been here before. What it is there's less of a circus. You're still getting those, off the wall questions and everything else, but it's not like it was if you followed a team that had been there for the first time in many years, and they're all really just happy to be here. They know the task at hand and what they have to do, and they also know that the challenge is very great, and that this is a team that, in the Chiefs, that people have not beaten in the last few times that they've been in the Super Bowl.
I hesitate to get too deep into the psychology of the team because, look, it's 53 players, it's 45 players on game day, and it just a couple.
But you don't believe in momentum.
No,
things like
I'm
that.
just saying, it's very hard. We've found this over the years to figure out which team's going to play well based on how they act during the week. But I do think there is something with the 49ers potentially that they got over the hump in the NFC in games they were expected to win, in games they didn't play well. I don't know whether to take that as okay, they got past that, and you're right, now they're in the biggest moment of their life. They got to it, and it's somehow almost a release to get past it, or to be more focused on the fact, which I keep hitting, which is that their last 3 big games, they didn't play to their best ability. Certainly on defense, but even offensively, in parts of all 3 of those games, they weren't at their very best.
Yeah, that could go 2 ways. You could either say, look, we haven't even played well, we're playing with house money. Imagine if we actually put together a good game and do what we're supposed to do for 4 quarters, we should be able to win against anybody. But on the flip side, you also have that fear in the back of your mind of, what if we lay out another clunker and this time we can't come back? We can't overcome the hole that we've dug ourselves in the first half. And that's going to be the big test, because they're facing a team that has plenty of experience and knows exactly how to win these games. And if you think about the psychology all the way back to Super Bowl 54, they were in a great spot to win that game before it all fell apart.
Sure.
So they have to avoid that as well.
It didn't used to be a thing that there was a 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl. The Patriots against the Seahawks were actually the very first, and then it's happened a ton since.
I mean, if it's Manny Sanders, Jimmy G, it's a whole different story in that game. And the question for me, part of this matchup is, we've all been impressed by the Chiefs' ability to just kind of turn it on and get to this point. But even, when you look at the game by game here, they're still not the old Chiefs in terms of offense. And I'm wondering, San Francisco's defense has been pretty disappointing down the stretch. They've been able to get by, even with the struggles. How do you like the game from a matchup standpoint? Let's focusing in more on the secondary and the coverage against the Chiefs wide receivers, and of course there's Kelsey, but the ability to keep MVS from making the play that he's made the last couple of weeks to really open up and give the Chiefs that extra dimension that they've lacked so much this season.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you point out what you just did, that this is not the Chiefs team that we came to know a few years ago. They're not the super explosive team that they used to be. I think about that one hallmark play from 54, Jet Chip Wasp, where Tyreek gets open and Mahomes has enough time to run that play, and it's a game changer. That's not this team anymore. They don't do that anymore. Mahomes is best in 0 to 10 air yards. The short passes, getting the ball out. So it's going to be hard to kind of compare the 2 different situations. But if I assign confidence points, because you look at it, I mean, nobody really knows which way this game's going to go. It's not like there's a heavy favorite in either way. But if I assign confidence points of it and try to make sense of it, I feel the best about the Chiefs defense. I feel okay at best about the Chiefs offense. I feel all right about the Niners offense, especially if they get their momentum rolling, which I know you don't believe in, Greg, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And then the Niners defense, they're talking about they have effort issues this week. That's concerning. Right. So that's the unit I have the least confidence in. So I do still kind of side with the Chiefs.
Yeah, we talked about that, the effort thing, and how that word, it's an ugly little word that's being thrown around. And is there a reality here where their defense collapses here, and with Mahomes leveling up, and all of a sudden Kelsey goes 11 for 174 and 2 touchdowns, and it's another red and yellow confetti day? I think that's certainly a possibility if you just look at the trending nature of the 2 teams.
There's another world where that being told about your players, maybe rights the ship, and but again, we don't know how that actually works behind the scenes. But I do like the fact that the Chiefs are a defense that has been consistent. They're playing their best. They've allowed the fewest yards after the catch of any team in the league. That matters against the Niners. That matters against Deebo Samuel. And it's a team that has gotten to the quarterback. And if you can get Karlaftis and Jones into Brock Purdy's bee house. I think you've got a beehive, bee house, whatever it would be like.
Bee cabin.
No, you had it right the
yeah.
first time. It's a bee house.
It's one of those things.
I
But if you
mean,
make 'em-
beehive doesn't
Yeah.
really make sense either.
If you make him uncomfortable, I mean, like, I think that when Brock Purdy's made mistakes, that's been a big factor. I mean, Mahomes, when he's thrown multiple interceptions, he's overcome that,
Yeah.
and they still won the game. It's like that. Purdy is in a different world when the mistakes start to occur.
Yeah, and I
Hey,
think
Keisha just called me live on the show, and I just thought this could be a chance for Lakeisha Westling to just like join the program now. So
Sure.
you are live on the NFL, the Around the NFL podcast, Keisha, right now.
Oh, okay. Whoopsie. Sorry.
Okay, love you. We'll talk later.
Wait, who's winning the game, Lakeisha? Give us a score.
Man, I'm still stuck on Ravens Lions, and it's weird being in St. Louis.
You got to get over that.
I would say I'm gonna still go Chiefs, man.
Okay. That's all the analysis we need.
Chiefs, man. There it is.
We'll
Keisha, see you next week.
talk to you later, Keisha.
That was nice.
I just felt like that would be nice to get her
Oh,
into
yeah.
the show.
Back to the SauceDog point. Sess, what you were saying? Good to hear it, Keisha.
No, as we're saying, if you can just, because I found it interesting that you had Brock Purdy at number 7 in your QB index, and down at number 9 was Mahomes. And that flips
Stop
the
it.
script from what some people
Sure.
think how this will play out,
That'll change.
who these quarterbacks are.
But you
See,
really?
I got one more shot.
End of season?
I got one more shot. Comes out next week.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like you said, you're only so confident in
goodness.
the Chiefs' offense. Like, I'm really impressed with what they've done throughout the playoffs. I mean,
Yes.
they were fantastic, and that's all that matters to me at this point.
Yes.
They were fantastic against the Bills. They were excellent, I think, overall against the Dolphins, and they did show some vulnerability against the Ravens in the back half of that game, where the blitz really affected Mahomes in a negative way. But I did think that the game script was a big part of that. I mean, they were throwing way short of the sticks on third down with a lead and being extremely conservative. And so that's actually one of my big questions of this game is, it's weird to say, but like, how aggressive will Patrick Mahomes be? Because I tend to think Steve Wilkes is going to look at that and he's going to take some chances. It's not like they're just going to be sitting back there in a shell coverage or anything. They're going to go for some situations where they leave their guys in one-on-one situations. And will we get a little more of an aggressive Patrick Mahomes instead of just the taking a profit Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I think that's the only way that you get an early control of this game, because you cannot afford to do what the Ravens allowed themselves, the position that they got into in that game, which is Andy Reid's opening script basically worked to near perfection. The Chiefs dominated time of possession. They got the stops on defense. They had control of that game before the Ravens were able to adjust and shut down that offense. So the 49ers have to take it to them. They have to do what the Ravens did in the second half early and then play off the adjustments from there. But I think, even back to your point, Mark, what you said about Brock Purdy is incredibly important to the value of Christian McCaffrey to this game. And I think Isaiah Pacheco as well. I think the running game is going to factor way more into this than we're probably talking about because, of course, it's a quarterback-driven league. But I think if McCaffrey ends up making the impact on the ground, breaking tackles, picking up extra yards and that sort of thing, that'll keep this offense afloat against the Chiefs defense that's done a really good job of limiting opposing quarterbacks. So even if Purdy's not on, if you can rely on McCaffrey heavily, then they'll have a fighting chance, or even more than a fighting chance. And the same goes on the other side.
I mean, the idea of McCaffrey getting, 25, 27, 30 touches,
Yeah.
it's in play because, he's so incredible. And I love watching that guy play. No one turns just a 0 to 3 yard gain or a 7 to 12 yard gain like him. And he's, I think, almost, it's a little under the radar, like his ability to maybe just go off and have, like that Marcus Allen type Super Bowl game. Like, that's certainly something I'm thinking about when I'm trying to decide who's going to win this game. Now, one other thing, like kind of circling back to Mahomes, who's been so good as a scrambler. And he's healthy this year. Doesn't have the bad ankle that he had in the playoffs last year. Can the Niners, the last time these teams played, which again is ancient history, but they did a nice job for most of that game messing with Mahomes, and then he got loose and they had that nice comeback, obviously, to win that. Are they going to be able to keep Mahomes in check? Because that is the part of his game, because he can't beat you deep as much anymore. He's still an assassin inside in short yardage, but it's those runs that are ripping the hearts out Like how the Niners, do they have the personnel, do you think, to handle that
Well,
and
yeah,
keep him in check?
it's the runs. It's the extension of the play. It's not even that he has to cross the line of scrimmage, but just buy more time to throw. I mean, I looked at that 3rd and 5 that they converted against Baltimore early in that game, where Travis Kelce essentially ran a route that was equivalent to when you take your kid to a diner and you get the kids menu and it's a piece of paper and they give him crayons and he just starts scribbling. Like that was the route that he ran, and they pulled it off with an incredible completion.
Yeah.
That's the stuff you really have to worry about. If you're worried about him actually getting out and running, you're in deep trouble. They do have the personnel for that. Obviously, Fred Warner's a great linebacker all around, and he's good in coverage, and he's fast enough, but he's not necessarily the eraser of a mobile quarterback that you might expect him to be or want him to be.
Right, you're not going to put a spy on Mahomes, right? He's not that type
I
of
don't
dude,
think
but
you do
like,
that, yeah.
But if you can take away his scrambling, you already know the personnel, they don't really have that deep game, then maybe you're in business. It's an interesting to see how they combat it.
It seems like Mahomes also, because it's plays breaking down, it's out of pocket stuff, and he knows exactly when to go and where to go, and he leads the league in first downs on the ground. And like you think of other quarterbacks, the Josh Allens as being like more dangerous on terra firma, but it is Mahomes that like in these huge moments last year and this year have done it with his feet when in the most critical 3rd down moments and big yardage moments.
I thought of it, by the way. Not Beehive, it's Kitchen. It's the kitchen.
I know, but
I'm
using Beehive because he's back in this area where all these like enemies and things that can sting you are moving around.
Like a hornet's nest in war. You know, the bullets are flying.
I mean, I'm creating a new term.
I didn't know that.
Kitchen,
I thought you were
get what you're
searching
saying.
for kitchen. It just came to me.
I mean, obviously, I went down a path that was, needed a little
in the
adjustment,
honeycomb.
So I like that.
Maybe that. That's a little
We're
too
workshopping
welcoming.
That feels like a sweet place.
I do remember, when my cousin hit that beehive when we were back in the forest, just looking back there when I was 10 years old, and he didn't know he was swatting a beehive, and it's not what you want to do. And he got stung by 27 people.
Are you just giving us the plot of My Girl?
I was going to say that's a
yes, but it really happened, and he got stung about 27 times. I got it like 2 or 3. My other cousin got 3.
Did you run outside the funeral home and Dan Aykroyd came after you?
We just sprinted back
Greg has
home.
no idea what we're talking about.
Greg escapes again, just 2 bee stings, 26 for the cousin.
Well, he's the one that hit it, so like. My running ability was a big factor that game.
Well, you also tripped him. You pushed him
I'm
down
trying to
on your
transition
way.
it back. I'm trying to transition
athlete,
it back. I do think the coaches with the willingness to stick with the run is a big deal. One of the most memorable moments of that AFC Championship game to me was when the Chiefs got to the 6-yard line in the second quarter, and they just ran 2 inside runs in a row. A 4-yard run for Pacheco to the 2, and then a 2-yard run for a touchdown. It was like, when was the last time we've ever seen the Chiefs do that? The second run was against 10 men in the box. You know, there's like, you can't run in the box against 8. It's like, you can if you want to, if you're a good running team. They did it, and I think both of these teams, when you look at the opposing defenses, that's the vulnerability. So Shanahan might have some regrets of how he handled his play calling in the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl. Reed's been knocked plenty for not sticking with it, and so I think that's just one issue. Like, who can just be comfortable and stay with it? Because we know these quarterbacks, they just refuse to get sacked, so it's tempting to just throw the ball all the time. But I think that's the way you attack these teams.
That even marks a change from last year's Super Bowl when the Chiefs got down on the goal line and they ran the same play in opposite directions, and one of them was the wrong formation and it still worked, and they scored 2 touchdowns that way. They didn't do that this time around. They trusted the run game. It's a bit of a throwback. That's them adjusting to the fact that they know they might not have the personnel to pull off what they were able to pull off in previous years.
One weird, they did play a year ago in the regular season, and there's some connective tissue and some of it does not connect, but Chiefs 44, 49ers 23. The Chiefs ripped off 6 touchdowns on 7 drives, and it was close, but then the Chiefs went nuts at the end. In that game, in the final 3 minutes, is when Brock Purdy entered to throw his first NFL passes, and here they are again.
I like that. That was kind of peak Chiefs.
But did you know...
It was also Christian McCaffrey's first game as a Niner.
And did you know that Sam Darnold is the first quarterback in the class of 2018 to make the Super Bowl?
Okay.
What?
Is that a backhanded shot at Baker Mayfield?
Well,
I saw Sam yesterday.
He ain't here.
The Pro Bowl MVP.
Sammy look confident? Does he look ready to go in if Brock fails?
Sammy looks content.
He's like Teddy Bridgewater on the sideline for the Lions. He's like, don't put me in. I'm good. I'm cool.
I'm just happy to be here.
Shook, here we go. It's time for the game of the week presented by DraftKings. And,
what should we choose?
Well, I don't know. It's up. There is no Pro Bowl game per se, but the kick-tack-toe is pretty elite.
Yeah.
But we're going to go with Super Bowl 58. What do you think? Give us your pick.
Niners favored by 2, money line minus 120.
That moved a little bit.
Slightly went down,
Out of the tic-tac zone. as they say.
Look, I talked about confidence points earlier, and that's really what I tried to use to come to a conclusion on this. And I don't like to be the guy who's like, they've been here a million times, so they're definitely going to be better. And
that means
more
you're going to be
equipped.
that guy. Yeah.
But I'm
Do it.
going
Be the guy.
to kind of be that guy. Because, look, the Chiefs' offense was terrible for most of the season. They had glimpses, and they weren't good until the playoffs. Like you said, Greg, that's all that matters. I feel confident enough in them that if they find themselves in a situation where it's 20-23, they're trailing by 3, it's the fourth quarter, and Patrick Mahomes has the ball, and he authors a couple of signature moments, and they score a go-ahead touchdown, and it's Isaiah Pacheco running it in from 7 or 8 yards out.
Okay, get specific.
Speak your piece.
And it's 27-23 Chiefs over the Niners.
They do it again.
Okay.
They get it done.
I'm struggling with my pick. We're going to make the rest of the heroes are going to pick on Friday's program. And you just gave me a lot to think about, Shooky.
Yeah.
Shooky, what do you got going on the rest of this weekend? You got friends coming in? Any buddies?
We don't have friends coming in, but we got some more coverage to finish up today. We got some stuff to do tomorrow. We're going to go head over to the Madden Bowl and watch the top 2 Madden competitors who are also best friends face off for the final championship game of their competitive series.
Sell it, baby. Best friends?
Yeah.
This is like when the Mega Powers exploded. Macho Man.
Wait,
and
but they're
Hulk.
not NFL players anymore in the Madden Bowl?
Oh, no. It's all like highly competitive esports kids.
Greggy, come on.
Stupid good. I've played them, and they have destroyed me.
I mean, you don't need to come after me for my Madden bona fides. I covered the Madden Bowl in 2008 for Patriots Giants, and it was just like at a bar.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a party, and you got to sat down and do segments with. I did a segment with Marshawn Lynch while he played Madden in the Madden Bowl. So don't come at me with my Madden Bowl bona fides.
Apparently, you've put me in my place. And you're going to be at the Madden party as well?
Yeah, I'm going to stop by there on Friday. And
Who's going to do a stop by?
See what else happens.
See if Killer Mike gets out of jail, we're going to be able to watch
we'll be
him,
able to see
Big
him
Boy,
perform, yeah.
Green Day.
He's not
That'll
in
be
jail.
fun.
He's not in jail.
He's not? He's out?
He never was in jail.
Just
He
arrested.
got arrested, but
The
was not in
PR
jail.
flack, Gregg Rosenthal.
I like to be factual. I like to double source my facts. Maybe you've gotten a little loose with your reporting.
Was he in jail?
No.
Yes, he was. He was detained.
Is that technically jail? Are you in jail in the back of a police car?
It's not prison.
You're tangling with the law, though.
He was
in a
arrested.
tangle.
Yeah, just like
encounter.
words matter.
Yeah.
Words
Sorry.
matter.
What's wrong with you?
The Around
All right,
the NFL podcast.
anything else, Nick?
Words matter. No, that's it. Words matter, and I'm happy to be here. Happy to sit down. This is great. We've done it remotely all year. I love being in person. with you
Yes,
guys.
I was texting with the boys earlier that you're such an important part of our show every season on the flagship Sunday program. So to be able to reunite in person and see the pipe up close, by the way.
Yeah, you didn't have to cover
My
Falcons
goodness.
Bucks this time. You got a real game.
Yeah.
So.
The game of the week, actually.
Not the F tier game.
A tier.
A
this
tier,
week.
baby, because there's
All
only
right.
one left.
Shooky, back into the huddled masses.
Yes.
You go.
I'm gonna go fight my way out of here. It took me
Good
forever
luck.
to get down here.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
and don't let Ely, because Ely was throwing you under the bus a little bit. He said, "Oh, he turned the wrong way," and let him know that.
He said you got lost on
he
the
said,
way
"Oh,
here.
he got
no.
lost."
I was right outside. I had to walk all down and around and upstairs.
So
and
just so you
downstairs.
know, next time you see him, that sometimes, he's not looking out for your best interest. So maybe if you have to say something face to face, this is the time for that as well.
You know, that's a bald on bald betrayal, and I'm gonna have a long,
That's
long,
not right.
hard thought.
Not
Think
right.
about that. Yeah.
All right, very nice. Thank you, Nick Shook. We'll take a break, and we'll be back with the Mad Dog.
Beware of the dog, like in the Mad Dog, on Sports Radio 66. The Fan, WFAN.
Wow. You throw that at me there. That's 30 years ago. Oh,
a
my
deeper
goodness.
cut, I think.
That's a deep cut. Yes, it
and
is.
of course, that is the voice of the great Chris Mad Dog Russo. I stumbled upon on YouTube a clip of all the different stings from your old place of work, and I was looking for the one specific one that starts with "Beware of the dog," which didn't get as much run.
You're right.
It was a little bit.
Mike probably didn't like that one.
We were,
But
just,
that I know.
yeah, of course. We were just talking about you went to see U2, and I was talking about I'm a big fan, and they're playing some deep cuts. That would be the deep cut of the WFAN.
You have to be a
jingles.
pretty big fan to know the Beware the Dog was part of that jingle. That is, again, that has to be at least 20, 25 years old.
Oh, at
That
least.
you found. Anyway.
I haven't seen Mark's face glow like that all week.
Oh, I
You
mean, it's
actually
just-
cured Mark's sickness just by playing
Yeah,
that.
You haven't been feeling well?
Mark.
Yeah,
oh,
Mark-
I'm not, but I would say that it brings
Here's
you
a
back
mask.
to a childhood innocence. It's wonderful. So thank you.
Very good. Good to be with you guys again.
It's so good.
How are we
And,
doing?
We're doing great, Chris, because and everyone now is talking about the Russo third act and everything. we've been, even if there was
You
no,
like the first act better?
no. Well, there is a nostalgia factor, but I think we're all, as fans of yours, just so pumped up to see this. And I'm curious from a fame standpoint, because you know the business better than anyone. Like terrestrial radio back in the day, WFAN, everyone was listening
New
to
York,
you and the dog, and I'm sure you couldn't go out in public without people. But now you're on this national platform. Like, are you more famous? Do you get recognized more now than you did in 1995?
Yes, I try not to make too big a deal about it, but you do notice it from a first take standpoint. There's much more notoriety. I do a lot of things on first take that I've been doing forever on the radio, and nobody say anything forever on the radio.
Like
and
what? What's an example?
The example would be shut up and play the game. Shut up and play. I said that 1,000,000 times. Really, Steve? Really, Mike?
Right.
I mean, I've said that 1,000 times. There's a lot of them. My old sayings. My rants.
Yeah.
The pauses. I put the pregnant pause in there. There's a lot of little examples which I'm using now that I've always used, and now people, wow, look at that! I never heard of somebody do that before. I've been doing it since 1989.
Right.
For
And
crying out
of
loud.
course,
but now they've picked up on it. So as a result, you get noticed a little bit more.
Chris Mad Dog Russo headlines the Mad Dog Sports Radio channel on Sirius XM and hosts the channel's anchor program, Mad Dog Unleashed, weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, noon Pacific. You can also see him on MLB Network's High Heat. And, of course, as you just said, ESPN's First Take. I think when I kind of watch the arc of the Russo career, which is now, like, let's be honest, you want to talk about, like, Mount Rushmore, like, in terms of longevity and you are at a high level. I think what surprises people, and I think, Mark, what makes Chris have the success is you're so real. Like, that is who you are.
People are, it's authentic.
And
100%.
the authenticity, especially in, not to take any shots at like that genre, there's so much of it is play acting, and you're saying things you maybe don't believe. But I know when you're face up on the camera, like Bono on the Zoo TV tour, like you are being yourself. I think that really matters. And like when we talk about the announcers, like Romo when he had his big rise, and Olsen who gets a lot of pop now, it's because they authentically love the game, and you hear that as well. You can't fake that stuff.
No, 100%. The gummies is a perfect example. I say
Yes.
the gummies, and that's not embellishing it. The gummies are real. And you say that, people, it's relatable to people. And I think that is probably the key to this little run here, is the fact that I say things that the average person wishes he could say or do, and I say it for them. And I say things that they're uncharacteristically they don't necessarily listen to. Now, I said that on FAN, and I said that on Sirius for 100 years. Now I say it on the TV, it gets viral, it gets the clips, and if you get involved with ESPN, you get in that machine, and they churn it out, so you can't miss it.
But not gummies before first take.
No, definitely not. No, you have to be sharp.
That's after you sign your next contract and don't care anymore.
You have to be sharp to be. You can't be fooling around. No, you can't
we
be
used to
fooling
work
around.
with Molly Kieran at NFL Network, and I love.
She's a great kid.
She's great.
The Molly expression, or whoever else you're with, whether it's Stephen A. Smith, they're just like
Oh,
looking at you, just
Swagoo.
like,
Swagoo is a good one. Yeah, they look at me, really, Chris? This is what you're going to say? No, I've gotten in trouble a couple of times, but they, for the most part, allow you to do what you want to do. And, the other key to the whole thing, relatability is one, passion's the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
I still enjoy it. I still love watching a game, and I watch the games regardless of working or not. I would still watch the games. That's a big factor, too.
Like, before we get into this game, there was an incredible rant that you had a couple weeks ago coming out of the Chiefs-Ravens AFC title loss for Baltimore, where, like, Gregg is part of what you'd call the Lamarmy, and like, a lot of people see him as, like, the MVP, and I see that. I grew up a Browns fan, so I have some issues with the Ravens to begin with, but that experience in that playoff game with Lamar Jackson, you seemed irked by what happened there, and I thought you spoke from the heart, and it's like, I think you connected with me in my own irate anger about the whole thing and how the season ended up for the Ravens.
I like
that's a
this.
good
Mad
point.
Dog v. Greggy. Let's go.
And
I'll
that's
move out of the
funny,
way.
too. I thought you were going to say Campbell, because I did that thing with the field goals with him, which got a lot of
Right,
attention.
you did, yeah.
You're right. See, the thing that would bother me about Lamar is, remember, when you're working on ESPN, they all love Lamar. He's the greatest thing in the world, da-da-da-da-dee, and he had won 2 playoff games. So I will go the exact contrast to that because I want to say, hold on now. Let's not put him in. I mean, Shannon Sharp said, he wins this Super Bowl, he's going to be one of the all-time greats. Shannon, take it easy. First off, he hasn't won the 2 games yet. And, one Super Bowl doesn't make him one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And then he lays an egg. Now, listen, they had a lot of issues in that game. He wasn't all of it. Flowers fumbled. They were undisciplined. The Chiefs scored first possession. So it wasn't all him, but he didn't do anything in the game to rescue his team from their demise. And that's what a great quarterback has to do. A great quarterback has to recognize, all right, now, they're paying me $40 million. We were down 17-10. We haven't played well. I got to do a job here. I got to get this team down the field, get some first downs, stabilize everything. And he didn't do that, and he hasn't been able to do that in a big game. And that is the reason why when people put him on this unbelievable level, I get turned off on it. Think about it. He's not better than Burrow. He's not better than Josh Allen. He's not better than Mahomes. He's probably not better than Matthew Stafford, right? Stafford's he's had a great
he certainly
career.
was this year. And Stafford was great.
And then Stafford against the Lions was tremendous. He was heroic in the game. And he won a Super Bowl. If I asked you right now, the biggest game of your life, you want Matthew Stafford or you want Lamar, you're taking Matthew Stafford. You have to. 370 yards against the Lions. He was banged. You have to.
Well, this is a tough one because I love me some Stafford and thought he was a top 3 MVP pick this year and wasn't getting a lot of love. When I rewatched that Lamar game, I realized just how poorly he played. Like watching the coach's film and seeing it again and taking the emotion out of it. That my reaction to the game was partly what you
I just said,
which is there was a lot going on, and there was. Of course, that was true, but it was also his worst game of the year. He was even more of a disaster. I thought.
So
in terms
you
of
watched
his
it on the
decisions.
film, and he was worse than they thought.
I thought he was even worse than I thought, and I'm a huge fan, and that's a tough spot for him because that's just how the playoffs are. But I also just think he's a 2-time MVP as a 26-year-old. Part of the reason everyone loves him is because there's never been anyone like him. He's the greatest running quarterback in the history of the league, and he's going to have to adjust his game because he's no longer that guy. If he was that guy still, he would have scored on that play in the divisional round where he got free a little bit. He might have had a bigger run when he caught his own catch.
That's true.
He doesn't have the explosive, so he's going to have to adjust. But he's 26 years old, and I just get sick of these great players in the middle of their career having this same conversation over and over, and then they inevitably do win the title and they do play better. And
it's not inevitable.
Because
that's part of it.
It's not inevitable, but it's the same players over. Like we had it with LeBron, we have it with Dirk Nowitzki, we have it with a million. You had it with Paul Pierce. Like you have it with a billion different people who eventually get over. People thought Matthew Stafford was one of the most overrated quarterbacks ever, and it's like. So maybe don't talk about him like that so much when it's actually happening, and understand there is an arc to his career, and he's a 26-year-old who I believe, because he's in that organization, is going to get chance after chance after chance, and one of those, it's going to turn out different. Maybe he won't even play that well in it, like Peyton Manning didn't play that well in his winning Super Bowl in 2006, by the way. No one ever brings that up.
That's a good point.
It's like, to me, you
he's feisty.
You get, I'm getting fired up. You measure quarterbacks by 16-game samples. I think that's the best way.
Yeah, I got to measure them in what they do in a big game. That's all. Now, the problem that Lamar has, Mahomes is not going anywhere, nor is Josh Allen, nor is Burrow.
Yes.
And he's not as good as those 3 guys.
Stroud, too, is now there.
Stroud's another one. Good job. Stroud's another one. And Herbert, with Harbaugh there, he's good.
Just say Aaron Rodgers to make the Jets fan feel better.
Yeah, there you go. I will say that. Good for you. I'll put the Jets. So you can make an argument that the beginning of next year in the AFC, you could take 5 or 6 quarterbacks ahead of him. You could take the big 3, big 3, no issues, and then Rodgers is 4 and Herbert is 5.
Wait, what's the big 3?
Well, Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes. He's not as good as Josh Allen. No way.
Burrow's got to stay on the field. I think if Lamar Jackson missed half of his career, so
here's the thing about Burrow.
4 seasons,
Lamar
he's
missed
Burrow.
the past 2 seasons.
Burrow beat Mahomes on the road.
Yep.
That to me, you can't.
But Burrow's another example. Like people, like that first playoff run Burrow had, he didn't play that well. He actually that was his worst 3-game stretch of the year was the AFC playoffs, and he made the Super Bowl. So it's a team
That's
sport.
when it gets a little unfair. You're right, because Burrow doesn't carry that around because the field goal kicker went nuts, and they had that magical run.
And he played well in the Super Bowl. Like he played okay.
And he also won a championship game, a championship in college too. I think that carries into it a little bit as well. And I know he had an LSU, he had a great team, but he was great in college. And he won against Saban and Tua in Alabama. He scored 45
Fair.
points.
It's all fair.
I think that comes into the feeling when you think of Burrow is maybe he isn't played quite as well, and you look at it down deep as the record would indicate. But you think he's played great because he's had big games.
You know, it's kind of funny. It's like that thing where you're watching the TV inside the TV inside the TV. It's when Greg and I both, during that conversation, go, "That's fair, that's fair," and it's like Chris Russo invented, "That's fair."
That's fair. I say that. I say a lot of those wacky sayings.
So we listened to you so many years that's just ingrained in my head. Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
I do say that, or let's be honest. Mike used to say, "Let's be honest" all the time. I say that too. But I do like. I'm going to take Kansas City in this game because I'm going to take Mahomes and Reed over Shanahan and Purdy. I'm the kicker. That kicker's a good kicker.
We were talking about yesterday.
And Moody stinks. And this close game, Birkin, he don't miss kicks.
He's hit 15 straight.
He's incredible. Yeah. And bad weather, too. In minus 50-degree weather, he goes out there and makes kicks. I like him. I think the Chiefs win a close game.
All right, before we let you go, Chris, we always need to dig in on what's Chris watching. There's more to Russo, especially, the gummies get popped. Mark, you had heard something around Chris. You guys share a passion for something.
Well, Dan and I have long had a an ongoing debate about the JFK assassination.
Oh, I love. Oh, geez, yeah.
All right, and we're with iHeartRadio, and we know that Rob Reiner did the JFK.
I had him on for an hour. He was good.
Just kind of wondering. There's also this thing floating out there where they have duo pictures of Brock Purdy with various pictures of Lee Harvey Oswald.
They do look alike.
There are places where they do. So I was just sort of wondering with the whole.
And some people think Brock Purdy's a patsy, so
There you go. Where are you with the whole JFK?
And Oswald's birthday is the same as mine, 10/18.
Really?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, where are you with the whole? Where are you on?
Oh,
the whole thing?
I mean, the Reiner podcast is excellent. I haven't heard the last two yet. There is no doubt in my mind. If anybody thinks for 1 second that Lee Harvey Oswald, there is evidence that he may have not even killed that cop outside Tippit. Outside that movie theater. There's evidence. Did you know that they found 2 wallets, and the police both said they were Lee Harvey Oswald's? 2? You found 2 wallets. They found one at the scene at the movie theater, and they found one in the depository. I mean, come on, 2 wallets.
This wasn't a guy with a lot of money.
And he was a CIA operative.
Well, there's a picture of him so-called in a CIA file down in
New Orleans,
Nicaragua. But there's another one overseas, and it's basically like the double of Mike Ditka that they're trying to tell us is Lee Harvey Oswald. It's a mustachioed, heavyset man, and that they're passing that off as Lee Harvey Oswald.
It was Brock Purdy's dad.
And remember, again, if anybody says Oswald did it by himself, you have to answer me this one question.
Okay.
Why did Jack Ruby kill him? Jack Ruby didn't kill him because he was trying to prevent dismay for the Jacqueline Kennedy and the Kennedys. I feel bad for him.
The Ruby situation is that's fair. That's fair. I have to say my stance has been, and Mark hates it, and you do as well, I'm sure now, that someone, and I don't know where Greg stands on this, but we're going to hear from Greg on it too, but there's something destabilizing to us as Americans, to society, to think someone so inconsequential as Oswald can change the world with a shot from the depository. So your nature is to say, well, no, that couldn't be it. It has to be a larger conspiracy because this is the president of the United States. This is this is the most powerful man in the world and a special person. I named my son after John Kennedy, Jack. But I understand there's is there someone in the grassy knoll?
I think there were, Reiner thinks there's about 3 or 4 shooters. The Warren Commission, 1976. You know who ran that Warren Commission? Allen Dulles. He was in charge of all the information they received. Allen Dulles is the guy that Kennedy fired for the Bay of Pigs. Now, how the hell is Allen Dulles?
Fog of war.
I mean, how is he the guy that is doing the Warren Commission who in 1964 said that Lee Harvey Oswald was an only shooter? There's too much smoke there to think they did it by himself.
Okay, well,
You disagree?
Go ahead, Greg.
No, I don't.
I think Lamar Jackson did not do it.
Yeah. I don't have a take on this because I'm uninformed, regrettably, in general, about this topic. But I do have it's not a conspiracy. It's something that I've done some reporting on myself. Dan likes to think of himself as the ATN media insider.
Of himself, I am.
And I have sources in this very building that tells me Chris Mad Dog Russo was involved in what we'll call an incident yesterday coming into the building.
I was.
Where he was very upset.
I was.
That they were trying to take the tags off of his
Good job, Greg.
backpack.
Did you hear about this?
And I want to hear what happened here. Can you confirm this? What is
Yes,
going
I will
on?
That's
confirm.
good reporting, Greg. Good
That
job.
brown bag right there that you see is a bag that I've had for a long time.
Nice leather.
They have
nice strap.
Those little tags there at the top, those
Yeah.
yellow and green tags. I've had that bag for 25 years, and so maybe 20 years. A lot of the tags I had on that bag were from events that I had been at, whether World Series,
Sure.
Super Bowl. So they had a little sentimental value.
Sure, yeah.
I bought the bag Monday. Nobody says a word. I come in Tuesday, and the guy's there at the X-ray machine. Well, we got to take the tags off. I said, what? Why you got to take the tags off? Well, we got to take them off. We were assigned to. So why didn't you take them off yesterday? If you would have told me that, I would have left the bag here today and not brought the bag. Well, so they grab scissors and they start cutting the tags.
Oh.
So I was upset, and I gave them, and I never do this, I gave him one of those, don't you watch First Take deals? Or know who I am?
You gave him
And
an
that- I hate that,
You
and
hit him
that's
with a,
wrong.
don't you know who I am?
And the answer was no. So as a result, I got my bag tags cut. Matter of fact, I have all the tags in the compartment there. I was going to use it yesterday as a what I'm mad about segment, but I
Right.
didn't get around to it. But I was annoyed and I noticed in the last 2 days they didn't have anybody cutting with the scissor. There was nobody there doing that on Wednesday and Thursday. Yet there were Tuesday, which I can't understand. So my little tags that I've had on that dopey bag for 20 years, 15 or 18 of them. World Series, NBA Finals, U.S. Open. You know, they put the tag out when you go through the X-ray machine with your little bag, they put a little tag on it. All of them are gone. So that's what bothered me, Greg. Good job on your part.
This is an exclusive. On
That
me
was
around
good.
the NFL.
I
Did you
gotta
know
say.
that? You didn't know that
I
one?
got scooped on
I
that
kept
one.
it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell them.
That's good. That's a good job. Well, and that guy has been fired now, so I wonder what he does next.
I hope he wasn't. And that's
Yeah.
what somebody said, Chris, really? You're making a big deal about your stupid tags? And it only was 5 minutes. Greg caught the bad 5 minutes. So I deserve it. I have to give him the credit for digging it up.
There you go.
Nice job.
Greg,
Okay,
you're
thank
a
you.
muckraker is what you are.
you
I was not there personally.
Yellow
but yes.
journalism.
All right.
You guys have been doing this show a long time. How long?
This is season 11. This is
Are you
Yeah.
gone?
Yeah.
You on what? Once a week during the season, or once every other game, or 5 days a week?
We do what, 5 shows a week?
5 shows a week
Yeah.
during the season.
Yeah.
5 shows
Plus
Monday through Friday.
other digital stuff. but
Sunday nights, after the games, we got a show. Monday night after the primetime games, we have a show, and then a couple during.
And if
the
you
week.
want an NFL Plus subscription, we can get that to you.
So in other words,
we
you
have
work-
2 shows a week. Yeah.
You'll work Sunday night and Monday night, and then 2 other shows during the week.
Yeah, Tuesday,
Wow.
Thursday, yeah.
How about when there's a Saturday game at the end of the year? You
Yeah,
work those nights too? Detroit, Dallas on New Year's Eve. Did you work
I mean,
that
those
day?
are tough, and we got
No.
we got young kids and everything. These
So
it's
those you
tough with
didn't
the
do, yeah.
holidays. They keep on building out the schedule.
Oh,
with
it's a
these
joke. I
Holidays.
mean, a lot of mouths to feed for the NFL.
off season though too, 4 shows a week during the off season.
Oh, do you
so, yeah,
really?
We just
Oh, we
don't-
crank.
don't
Good for
quit.
you.
Yeah.
How long is each show?
Oh, they're getting longer
About
by
an hour.
the year.
60 to 80 minutes.
That's a hell of a job.
Yeah.
That's a good effort.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Mr. Russo,
Thank
and
you.
it,
Got
it
it.
does sincerely mean a lot coming from you.
don't give me
somebody,
that nonsense.
We
That's
did,
a good
well,
job.
listen,
It's true.
I mean, the tag incident that put in
Notwithstanding.
danger your reputation. We're now
Notwithstanding.
restoring it
Yeah.
right now. All right, again, check out Mad Dog on Sirius and everywhere else where he is blowing up. He's a superstar, and we're happy to have you every year. It's a great tradition.
You guys do a great job. Who do you like in the game?
We have to announce it tomorrow.
can't
Oh,
say
yeah.
What does
Yeah.
it really
Yeah.
matter? We
But
could.
I can't say until Friday.
I
Can't
picked
do it.
Chiefs Niners before the year and picked the Niners to win off a pick 6 in the final 2 minutes, and so that's where I'm going.
He's staying.
Wow. I'd give
How
you
about you?
credit for getting it. I have the Chiefs 23-17.
Sounds
I'm
good.
not betting against Mahomes.
I like that you have the number low. I got a 27-20 Chiefs. Come on.
Hey, I went under. I went under the number.
Yeah.
All right. You
Mad
the best,
Dog.
guys.
Thank you,
you.
buddy. All right, welcome back. And I mean, Mad Dog is the best. Also the best if you are a football fan, if you love the game and the history of the game. Just looking over my right shoulder, and there he is. Doug Williams, Super Bowl 22 MVP, the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Unbelievable story to him. Just it's everywhere. It's all around us.
It's almost like if you lived in a land with only hot people aren't hot anymore, because like everywhere you turn, there's like an NFL icon walking by, and then a second, then a third, and it's like it's almost oversensitory explosion.
I was almost 9 years old for that Super Bowl, and that's the first one I really remember when it happened. And that actually is a good example, and I think I thought it at the time too, like blowouts can be entertaining, because I remember when that was happening thinking like, this is crazy, this is great, touchdown, 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 and it was just like this this fire show.
It's a good,
and a surprise.
it's a
to be
good
that big.
topic because I remember I was 7 and I was not young enough to be plugged in, but I remember running through the living room with my cousin Matt and my Uncle Bob and my dad were watching the game, and the Broncos were up 10-0.
Yeah.
And then we came back in from outside or whatever we were, and all of a sudden it was like 35-10.
Well,
it was. I think I scored 35 in the second quarter.
That broke
That's
records.
that's what
Yeah.
it was. Where
Yeah.
that blowout, that quarter was so exhilarating.
Like Timmy Smith, the running back, who had been a
Went off,
non-factor,
went off.
came out. But I will tell you one thing: I watched that game in horror because it was 2 weeks before that the Broncos nipped the Browns in the drive.
The drive.
No, the fumble. It was the fumble, and so it was like I'm watching the Broncos get the doors blown off, thinking like, wait a minute,
Right.
the Cleveland Browns could have taken this team.
So
Anyways,
anyway, and then the first one I remember truly watching was Bengals Niners, and I'll always remember like thinking it was really cool that I was watching with my dad, and then the start of the Bud Bowl. That was the first Bud Bowl
yeah.
commercials, which I was like as invested in the Bud Bowl as I was.
Tim Crumry's broken leg, which was
Right,
horrific.
they almost pulled it off, Cincinnati. Anyway, Mad Dog was an excellent guest. You knew he was going to be. Greg, I got to say, that was incredible reporting, and it is on brand. You took the risk to bring it up. You don't know how it's going to go because that was a moment, and he was acknowledging, Chris, that was kind of diva behavior. He was fired up, but it was something that had to be uncovered. That's the job of a true journo, so I respect that.
He doesn't strike me as a guy who takes things like too personally. You know what I mean? Like he's got to fire back. He's got to have fun with it.
I was watching his facial expression as Greg was telling that story, and didn't seem too disturbed. It could be his last appearance on the show, and that would be.
I guess we'll find
also
out
on
next
brand
year.
for Greg.
We'll find out next year. This was an incredible SauceDog Spectacular, by the way. I mean, I wouldn't say they both had the same level of energy between Sauce and Chris Russo, but
Different vibes.
different people, different
Stature.
places in their lives, but both titans in their respective genres. All right. And by the way, SauceDog, what are we doing? What are we doing in this business? You picked this Super Bowl before the season?
I picked it correctly.
Why are we hearing that as a comment made off the cuff in the middle of that interview? I would have loved to lead with that all week.
I don't know.
That's branding, baby.
I mean, two things. I was alerted to it. I didn't even remember I picked that. And then people were saying, like, use it as an explosive secret weapon at some point.
I could be wrong, but I think we did talk about this on the show last week. So
I don't know.
I don't believe so.
very briefly that you mentioned it.
Perhaps, but I mean,
But that's a good job. That's a good job by you.
I also didn't know that I did, and when you make those picks back in August, and so I don't cling on to them. I know, like I'm not on. You're on a pick show, Greg, and like to me, it's like I made it in August. It happened early in the morning.
I'm still holding out hope for my Eagles Chargers banger.
I
Go.
I had Jets, which
I get why you did that.
V-Niners. But again, by the transitive properties of the conversation with Sauce today, it really is kind of Jets-Niners.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
we
Sauce
should have beaten
didn't
the Chiefs in
even-
Week
Sauce
4.
didn't even really buy into your theory, but
I don't know.
He
It's
said.
tough to get Sauce to buy into a lot of theories.
What did
but
he say? He said reality is like important or something like that. He's into reality.
I think
It's like,
reality is
that's-
overrated.
That's like fair. It's a
it was
fair
also
trend.
notable that he didn't know who Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino were, but
He's much younger than us.
he is. I think
Comes
that's
from a
what was
different
telling.
world. All right, so good job by you on the prediction, and we're gonna have you got to stick the landing though, of course. Now we need to know who you will pick to win the Super Bowl, and we'll share those picks on tomorrow's show. We're also going to have more fun guests, so just make sure you check out our Friday show, our last show before the Super Bowl. And Mark, we've been concerned about your health the last couple days. It's come up in front of guests. They seem to be alarmed when they realize how close a sick person is to them. Greg and I are on some level alarmed, knowing
I know
that
you
there's
are.
a big weekend
We're
ahead
in
of us.
jeopardy. Yeah.
But you are going, and this is an amazing thing, you're going to NFL Honors tonight.
I do not believe I will be going to.
What?
That. I don't. I
I
think
thought
that
you were going suited and booted tonight.
the person I was planning to go with is also in dire straits. So we will see how any of that. Well, I'll let you know. Maybe it's early in the
Okay.
day, but
All right.
if
Well,
I go, I
if
will.
you do go, give us.
It's not that early. It starts in like 2 or 3 hours. 3
Yeah,
hours.
it seems like a long shot. If I go, I will file a report.
That's what we're looking for. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like we said, we'll be back Friday, and then the weekend, and then the big game. We're getting closer day by day. Until then, you know what you got to do. Heed the call.